But startups fail. We know that.
Be smart, cautious and realistic.
That you know as a founder, something's going to go wrong. Shit's going to hit the fan.
I was like, did you send an email? Did you do a WhatsApp? Did you do an SMS?
Right.
Until then, you've not reached out to anyone or followed up. Get me the hell out of this place.
Ow.
I am what I am today because of my startup.
Of course.
I drank the Kool-Aid. He said, all founders want to be content creators.
Yeah.
All content creators want to be founders. What's the worst that can happen?
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Happy Hour with FinCocktail. Our guest today is a special one. He is somebody who has managed to build one of Ayurveda's largest D2C brands and sell it for about 100 crores. He's also now an investor in a lot of startups. And the best part is I've known him for over a decade. He's a friend of mine and today's conversation is going to be like no other. Mr. Arjun Vaidya, welcome to the show.
This is surreal.
Hello?
Like for me, it's surreal. I was like, I've been watching, I remember when FinCocktail started, we were watching all the videos and then like, I see two Sayalis, right? One Sayali behind the camera, which I've never seen, and then the other Sayali that I know. So this is like,
this is very different.
Crazy moment for me.
Same, right? Because we've been through so many we know each other through all those awkward phases and weird
Actually,
pranks.
not a decade, 17 years.
Yeah, almost 2 decades. Yeah. Damn, that's a lot of time. We know everything. We know all our secrets.
College, after college.
Everything. All our successes, all our failures.
Your masters, my no masters.
Yeah, but then your
marriage, everything.
Yeah, both our marriages. Now Aisha.
Wow.
Okay, I'm going to jump right in there and ask you a question that not a lot of men get asked. How has life changed after Aisha?
Yeah, look, I think I was really nervous, honestly, to have a baby. Like some people say they were nervous when they got engaged and they got married and all of that. Honestly, I didn't feel any of that. I was totally ready and I honestly didn't feel any of it. So I think I didn't feel any of it because I was ready, but also it's a very different thing when you have a kid because when you get married, you live a life with someone and they become a part of your life, but you're not responsible for everything, right? So, for example, this morning, before I came here, we were spending some time with Aisha before she went to school. And then she's now 15 months. And so Trisha said that, hey, now you got to start guiding her. Because she understands certain things, right? So she sits in a certain way and then we wanted to sit in another way. And so we're like legs and she understands and she moves her legs, right? Then when you're like, hey, before you go to school, give me a hug and you do this, she comes and hugs you. So now she's becoming a person more than just a baby. And so guiding her, teaching her becomes really important. And so I was really nervous because I said, now what you do and your actions and the amount of time you give and the way you react and the way you speak around her molds the person she becomes as well. And that's massive responsibility, right? Like you can't take it lightly. Sometimes you're just like, hey, I'm like sitting around her and I get a phone call and I pick up my phone. What if she falls down? What if I'm not looking, etc. All of that. So I think that was a lot of nervousness that I am responsible for someone else. But then eventually when she was born, I guess you just get into it. I was also like, how will I be a girl dad? Will I be the right kind of girl dad? I'm not sure.
I remember this conversation where you're like, dude.
I absolutely love it. I think there is one big challenge though, which you have as a parent, as a young parent who's still working, like still trying to make it in your career, etc. All of that. I think work is also important for me and giving it time and putting the energy into it is very important. But there's always that guilt or FOMO. Oh, I'm on that flight. I missed this. I wasn't able to go to her school for this. I didn't get to see her this morning because I left before she was awake or I was late for leaving so I couldn't say bye to her properly, etc. All of that. And I think that's a pain that I live with every day.
Yeah.
But I think overall it's the most unique experience. It has the highest highs and the lowest lows and I thought startup was that, but honestly this is that, right? Like when you've come back from like last week I came back from a 4-day trip, and then I made it just before her bedtime, and I could see her and meet her before she went to bed. But then, like, when your kid is sick, it's the hardest thing in the world. Like, the hardest thing, I would be like, before you're a parent, you're like, oh my God, that parent keeps talking about their kid, overdoes when their kid is sick, all of those things.
Now you are that parent.
I'm not that parent. I would say I'm not that parent. I can still have a conversation outside of my kid.
Yes.
But it is hard.
Yeah. No, and I see that in Niyati as well, right? Because
she's a recent parent as well.
Yes, Krishiv is also just about 12 months. And she's also, she constantly lives in guilt because she's like, I'm at work, I'm guilty about leaving Krishiv. And if I'm with him,
you're guilty about work.
I'm guilty about not being so productive. So she's like, the guilt is just permanent.
One other thing I'll say is that earlier I could allow myself time to waste.
Yeah.
Today, prioritization has to be so much better.
That there is no...
Like, you can't stay in the shower for those extra 5 minutes and listen to a song just because you want to get out of the shower, get those 5 minutes with your kid, get in the car, get to work in time, get back from work in time. I used to waste 1 hour at work, so I'd stay 1 hour extra. No, you can't stay 1 hour extra.
Not a minute to
you
waste.
Stay that 1 hour extra, your kid is asleep by the time you get home, right? So I think those few things.
That's incredible.
So you have to be much better at prioritization
and
your using your time more efficiently.
Yeah, that's one of the things that is common even in being a founder, let's say, and as a parent, right? Because time is the only currency that you have.
But the big difference between being a founder and a parent is it's on your time.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, I have to put in 4 hours extra of work, and I usually leave the office at 8, but that day is very busy, so I have to put in that extra work and I leave at 11 or 12. That's my choice.
Yeah.
My kid's timing is not my choice.
That's true. Your kid has his...
You have to give that time when it's available.
Yeah.
You can't say
once
that...
it's gone, it's gone.
Today you sleep at 10 o'clock because I'm going to come back. No, you can't do that, right? Or at least my wife doesn't allow us to do that.
Yeah. Trisha's actually, I think, very, very amazing. I'm going to have a conversation with her separately. I've already had this discussion in my head. And... So what was that like? Because you spent so much time together, you were working together. She was your COO at Dr. Vaidya's. Then you went through the entire exit together. And then now suddenly you don't spend that kind of time together, right? You still, of course, are parents and you have different responsibilities now. But what's that transition like?
It sucks, honestly. I think we got used to spending that time together. And I think we got used to enjoying the joy of building together as well.
Right.
And that joy is not there anymore. Maybe at some point in life we'll have it back again.
Yeah.
But today that joy is not there anymore. And so, honestly, it was an adjustment for both of us, right? Because we sold the company and then summer of 21 we were free. And then we had to figure out what we wanted to do in life. And I took the path of an investor because that's what I enjoyed doing. And she tried that path as well, and she didn't enjoy doing it at all.
She didn't like it?
No.
Not
so I think it comes down to what our core skill sets are and what she did at Dr. Vaidya's versus what I did. So I was the more front end guy. I did the marketing, business development, front ending, and then I also ran the back end functions of legal as well as running the factory. So
the
production,
paperwork.
procurement, all of that. But honestly, the nuts and bolts of the business was done by her, right? So performance marketing, accounts, logistics, warehousing, customer service, HR, the real nuts and bolts without which your business can't function. And so I saw myself as more macro person. And so I enjoy investing. I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy understanding their businesses. I enjoy getting on a flight to go and meet a founder. And she didn't enjoy that at all.
Yeah, this though we know you. So I mean, obviously I know you because I know you. But this guy is the most social person I know. I thought he was already a very, very social person. Now, since you've become an investor, dude, it's so funny. Every single person I meet, they're like, oh, Arjun Vaidya. Yes, he's a friend. I said, guys, no, he's my friend. I said, y'all are new.
But she didn't like that.
Yeah.
She once even asked me, she was like, so you met 30 companies this week. Did you invest in any? I said no. She was like, so what is the point? What's the output of this week? 0. And I think that's sort of the way that she looks at life versus the way I look at life, and there's no right or wrong. And so she quickly realized that full-time being an investor was not for her.
Fair.
Yes, can she do some angel investments? Of course. But I think for her, the calling was to do a business again.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll see that very soon.
Excited for that
she's
one.
just kicked off the journey
Nice.
more seriously now. And so I think that's what she enjoys. And for the first time since we sold Dr. Vaidya's, I see her actually smiling when she's working, right? Because she was doing work, she was investing, she was advising a bunch of companies, a bunch of funds, etc., all of that. But it was very hands-off work. And a hands-on person loves hands-on work. I'm okay with hands-off work.
Yeah.
But she's not. And so I think it was a big adjustment, right? Because I started a new role. It was formal. I would go into the office every day. And at times she would say like, yeah, it's
not
like, I don't even
anymore.
know what you're doing
Yeah.
and it's different. But I think we've come to sort of an adjustment to it. But yeah, if you ask me honestly, I miss those days.
I can imagine.
Because you live it together, right? The joys, the ups, downs. It's a beautiful journey of if you can get it, right? And we've talked about it as well. I would say that like some people can do it and some people can't.
Yeah.
And it's either very good or very bad, right?
Yeah,
And-
I wouldn't be caught dead working with my husband.
And so some people are like, there's no chance I could do it.
Exactly.
But there's no middle ground.
Yeah.
It can't be okay. Like you can't just be like, oh yeah,
Chalta hai.
we're working and let's see what happens, right? And I think with any close person, it could be a very close friend, it could be a family member, brother, sister, father, mother, spouse, partner, whoever it is. It's a very intense relationship.
Yeah.
And so I think that at least in our space of D2C brands, we have now seen like initially when we started and we used to pitch
There
to
were none,
investors.
na?
There were, but people were like, can it work? Is
Yeah,
it possible?
skepticism was
lot
a
of skepticism.
yeah.
Today in the D2C world, people are like, husband, wife,
Very
amazing.
good.
Brother, sister, go for it. And I think it works because it's complementary skill sets. I think over anything, it works because it's complementary skill sets. I mean, there is an amount of honesty that you can
Of
have with a
course.
person you know really well. There is amount of no bullshit, no ego,
Yeah.
etc. But I think eventually it works on complementary skills.
Yeah, it has to. Even for me and Niyati, for example, now I've known her also for about 2 decades, longer, I think. And people ask us, right, that you're two close friends and how do you work together? It's because we do not do the same thing at FinCocktail. We have very different skill sets. And if you see us at work, like there is one question that will come from our team and we know who's going to answer it. It's not even like, it doesn't even go through our head that, acha, you take this one or I'll take that. It's just different.
It is how it is.
It is how it is. And I think that's why it works. Otherwise, it's just messy.
Absolutely. and look, I would say that, there is no formula or hack to figure this one out, right?
Yeah.
Like, people ask me, I'm also starting with my wife. Can you give me any advice?
Give
I'm
me
starting with my
tips.
husband or I'm starting with my sister. Can you give me advice? You got to test out the relationship because every relationship is different,
Yeah.
right? And it can work and it may not work. But if you can give it a shot, you should give it a shot.
Yeah.
Because that combination of two people who are close enough and fighting for the same goal
That
on the
is-
same side of
yeah.
the table, it can lead to compounding, right?
Correct.
As opposed to just
Correct.
1 + 1 is 2.
Yeah. It's, you're fighting towards the same goal and you're both in it.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I know that you are one of the biggest propagators of the India story.
Yeah.
You love it. I mean, you and I have a similar story there where we both came back and we're both like, we don't want to stay in the US.
Correct.
We got a good education. We were very lucky. We were very
And you went
privileged.
back and came back again.
I did
Second
it
time.
twice.
Yeah.
I did it twice. And a lot of people ask me, they're like, you're mad? They say, you went once, you went
second
again.
time.
MBA also you did, and again you came back. Why? So, and I know that you're one of the only few people who actually resonates with me on why we came back.
Yeah.
Now already there is this kind of wave of, founders and startups in India. Entrepreneurship is on the rise. And I'm sure you are witnessing it firsthand.
Firsthand.
Is the D2C space still growing? How fast is it growing? And is it still a right time for somebody to begin creating in this space?
Yeah, look, first I'll say that it was the best decision I made. Second best decision I made was moving back to India. Best decision I made was convincing my girlfriend or fiance to join the business. But it really helped me selfishly also. So look, I think from a macro perspective, I always believed in the India story. I knew that it would pan out, play out better than most other places in the world. From the base that we were, there was a lot of growth potential. But I think doing business and working and understanding the consumer in India is sometimes poles apart from everything else you see in the West, right? So I now run a fund which has offices in London, New York, Brussels, Singapore. And we get to interact with our teams there and see what they are saying in terms of the consumption story. So we said, okay, with our London team, we did an exercise. They said, these are the 6 themes we're investing in. And then we said, okay, these are the 6 themes we're investing in. And a lot of the themes were polar opposites, right? So they said, we're talking about the fussy consumer who wants better, more sustainable, higher quality. I said, we're talking about the price conscious consumer or the price value conscious consumer. Not cheap.
But just value for money.
Value for money, right? Like real value for money. So I think coming back allowed me a 10-year head start or a 5-year head start to all those people who stayed there for 2-3 years, did an MBA and then came back, right? And now that I've been here a decade, I really know that you send someone an email, it's not going to get a response.
You have to send a WhatsApp cases. That listen.
So there was a rule at Dr. Vaidya's when people came to me and said, I sent an email, I got no response. I was like, did you send an email? Did you do a WhatsApp? Did you do an SMS? Did you do a call and a LinkedIn reach out? That is reaching out to someone. Until then, you've not reached out to anyone or followed up. So I think the move back to India has been probably the most fulfilling thing for me. We actually thought of leaving in 2021 summer.
Really?
Because we sold our company, we didn't have a kid, we didn't have any responsibilities. So we were like, okay, if there's a time we can leave, it's now. And we considered 3 places: Dubai, London, Singapore. And then because Trisha had lived in London before, we said, okay, chalo, we'll give London a shot. And we booked a one-way ticket to London in June 2021 or July 2021. And then second wave hit and we couldn't take that trip, etc. All of that. But we did that trip eventually. We spent 1 month in London in October 2021. 1 month. She was, I think, okay. After the third week, I was like, get me the hell out of this place.
I'll go home.
But you know, when you go on vacations, etc., you're like, oh, just 1 week. I wish I could stay 1 more week. I wish I could, when I met someone, I could say, hey, I'll see you at the pub next week and stuff like that. But 3 weeks later, I was like, boss, I need to be back in Bombay ASAP. And I think there's a deep affinity both to India and this city for me as well. I just like, I travel a lot in India. I would say I've been to most cities in India multiple times now. I know the restaurants, I know the food, I know things, but there's an affinity to Bombay as well. It's something about this city that keeps drawing me back. Right? It's something that like when I used to land from the semester and land in Bombay, I just feel like,
just for like Christmas holidays
I'm coming home on the iPod, listen to the music as the plane is landing.
Like, tell the world I'm coming.
But look, I think that from the D2C perspective and the entrepreneurships perspective, I'll say that entrepreneurship is on the rise. It's Startup India has done a great thing to propagate the startup mission, both from a aid perspective as well as from a just bringing entrepreneurs in the front and center. Shark Tank is great.
I was about to say.
Yeah, Shark Tank is honestly, it's mainstreamed it. And the coolest thing is, when I see an entrepreneur who I've met before, they go on Shark Tank and they're doing 10, 15, 20 lakhs a month in sales, but they're really fighting, right? And then their story comes out and they go to places and people take selfies with them. They deserve it.
They do.
Because if an athlete, if a small athlete also who plays the IPL gets that selfie and Bollywood actor and influencer gets a selfie, entrepreneurs deserve the selfie 100%. As well. Because the work and 100%. The effort and the passion that they're putting into it is the same. And I always say that whether an entrepreneur is doing 5 lakhs, 50 lakhs, 5 crore, 50 crore a month, they're still putting that 14 hours of work and they need to be given that respect, right?
They need their due recognition.
Yeah, I would say on D2C specifically, which I talk about a lot, I speak for a lot. It's a very different marketplace from the marketplace that we entered in 2017, 2018.
I'm sure.
So the positive of the time we entered was competition was almost nothing.
Correct.
And so if a customer came on and they wanted to buy Ayurveda, they'd buy us.
Yeah.
Today, if you go just in my cohort, we've had 100 Ayurveda brands join to learn from us. So just imagine the number of brands on Amazon. So when you go on Amazon now and you search Dr. Vaidya's Herbo Build, you'll see 10 other products. And if you search Dr. Vaidya's Chavan Tabs or Immunity Booster, you'll see like 50 other products, 100 other products. So the job of a founder today is, the positive is the market is massive. It's 10x the market that I would have entered, right? So 2013, I was speaking to a founder who entered the digital economy in 2013. So there were 9 million internet users in 2013. Today, there are like 750 million smartphone users and at least 200 million, if not 250 million online shoppers, right? So exponential growth. But choice is also a lot. And so a founder starting today is entering a market where customers are comfortable to shop online, have reduced their COD from 90% when I started to about 65-70% now, are comfortable going on D2C brands, shopping on brands, not just on Amazon. But there is a lot of competition. And the business is now not just, मैंने website डाल दिया, मैंने Amazon product list कर लिया और sale automatically आ गया, right? It's a very technical business. Your website has to be conversion friendly. Your customer experience has to be clean. You can't take more than 3 days to deliver your product in a metro. You have to have a reasonably seamless return experience. Or customers will talk about you on social media. You have to have the relevant activity to create an organic content funnel that is not just performance marketing.
Correct.
So I think all of these things put together need to work. And so what took us 1 year to figure out in how does a website work, how does Shopify work, how does SEO work, how does Google, Facebook advertising work, you don't have that year anymore. You have 2 months to figure that out and get your technicals right, or someone will come and eat you.
Yeah.
And you know, the whole thing of, I'm running my business, but I'm doing this website on the side part-time. No, I'm doing it full-time.
Yeah.
And so if I'm doing it full-time,
yeah,
I will give the customer a better experience than you, and the customer will come to me.
Yeah. So you can't just do like
it's a technical business now. It's a more mature market. There are big players that have entered the space. And so the market opportunity is bigger. 100 crore is now truly believable. At that time, we used to think it's some mystical being, 100 crore. We can't even say the number like Voldemort. We can't say the word, right? You can't say
it, otherwise you'll jinx it.
Today, you see the founder on Shark Tank saying, sir, 300 crore ban jayega aise. Market hai, kar lenge. You know, so I think that difference exists. But quality of operation, quality of execution is important today.
Yeah, because how else do you stand out? And why
from the rest? But I can tell you at that time, we got away with a lot of things.
Yeah.
We got away with no social media presence. We got away with no expenditure on branding. We got away with poor customer experience. We got away with delivering in Guwahati in 7 days and delivering in Srinagar in 8 days and delivering in Imphal in 10 days. Today, that's not acceptable. The customer will not accept the product.
Yeah.
And they will put a tweet about you. They will put a tweet about you.
They are waiting to tweet about you.
Yeah.
And negative comments are always the first ones to go out on social media, right?
Yeah. I remember like a pretty funny story actually. So I'm new to this world of putting out content, etc., all of that. And so
exciting stuff.
Like I think this was like 3-4 months ago. I put a video on how Adidas got their strategy for the World Cup merchandise correct. Because usually my first Nike India jersey was $5,500-6,000 and it was very expensive. So there's no market. So they launched a fan version at $999. And I said, instead of difference, because in our investor world, we use the word delta instead of difference, right? To say there is a difference in price point. And there must have been like one comment saying, hey bro, why did you say delta instead of difference? Are you trying to sound too smart? You could have just said difference. And then there was a whole slew of comments saying, haha, this loser is the CEO of Delta, just trying to sound smart, wannabe.
You've been introduced to trolls, right? My friend.
So, honestly, it didn't matter to me. I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah,
so
it's hilarious for us.
But my wife got really offended. Yeah. And she said, I'm going to reply to these guys. I'm going to write back to these guys. How can they talk like this? What's the big deal in saying this, right? And then I was like, look, I don't care. But I think if that happens, it's a small thing to me. Using the word delta in a video. Just imagine if it took 10 days for a product to reach and the product was medicine.
Yeah.
What would happen from a customer's lens, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you go on like PharmEasy or any of those medicine apps,
you'll see on the reviews.
Yeah, you see it on the reviews, and sometimes they're like, "Subah mangao, sham tak pahunch jata hai ghar pe," and you need it because these are things that you can't.
And quick commerce has changed that behavior as well, right? So, I'd say 3 years ago, quick commerce was inexistent or just starting. Today the customers used to getting stuff in 15 minutes. And so I remember I met a founder who's in the home decor business. She sells like dining products, home decor products, etc. all of that. And she was like, I do 5% of my sales on quick commerce. I'm like, what's the use case here?
Yeah.
She's like, no, let me tell you the use case. You're having a party at home. You don't have whiskey glasses. 20 minutes, you'll get whiskey glass. You're having a party at home. You don't have bowls for dip and chip. You'll get dip and chip. And so now, what seemed to be a essentials, food, grocery type play, which is what we thought quick commerce would be. 30% of sales on quick commerce is non-food, non-grocery, non-essential. And the great part for them is the average order value is much higher here.
Yeah.
People are buying PlayStation 5 as well. And the margin they make is much higher than food, because on food, Unilever, a big company like Nestle or Dabur or will give them 7% margin, 8% margin, 10% margin. On a larger value home decor product, they make a 25-30% margin and a higher AOV. So absolute, like a delivery boy delivering to you may cost 50 rupees, right? On that, their margin will be on a 2,000 rupee product, 30% will be like 600 rupees as opposed to on a 200 rupee product, 7%. And so absolute basis, they're making much more per delivery. That makes their business actually more efficient and economics work out, right? Because the big question with quick commerce is, can this business actually be sustainable if I order a 100 rupee Cornetto or 200 rupee Magnum? That's all I order. And it reaches me in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But with this and the average order value increasing, the business actually seems like a business now.
Now it feels like it has potential and it's here to stay.
Correct.
Very interesting.
Well, I don't know about here to stay from an economics perspective because I've not read those P&Ls. But as a customer, I wanted to stay.
Yeah.
I love it.
Even
I absolutely love it. Like that day we were going for a Mumbai Indians game and my father-in-law wanted to come with me. And he didn't have a Mumbai Indians jersey.
See, you get jerseys.
We remembered like at 4 o'clock and the game was at 7:30. And we got it.
15 minutes.
We got it.
You will be like...
But now I'll tell you on Sundays, that took 42 minutes because
so many people were ordering it and everybody was sitting at home and watching.
Right?
I was even surprised, like for example, when there was Ganesh Chaturthi, I opened the app and I needed some like milk or something like that because so many people come for chai or whatever.
Sure.
And there's this like small puja essentials. So they give you the 5 fruits and the beetle leaf and the supari and like exactly what your Guruji would ask. They have that ready.
No, I can tell you that I have a big belief in the spiritual economy.
Yeah.
I think there is big business associated with spirituality. Look, it goes very deep in India in terms of consumer behavior. You have to do a puja at your house today, right? Your mom or your grandparent would know where to get the puja samagri, to get the picture of the god you want there, the small stool, to get the right fruits, to get the tika, to get all of those things, right? They would know.
Correct.
You have no idea where to get it, right? And so there has to be a way for a modern consumer who still wants to be spiritually inclined to get these products in a format that's easy for them to access.
Correct.
And so whether it's virtual puja or it's spiritual tourism or it's puja samagri through new age digital brands, we've seen already brands like Fool be built, right?
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in this and I'm investing in this. So I've invested in a company called Vama already that does virtual puja. I'm investing in a company that does e-commerce for spiritual products as well. I think even tourism, like we're investing in a budget hospitality business now that will
eventually
launch. Around our temples, we have ashrams and dharamshalas. And then now in the bigger ones, we have really expensive 5-star hotels. But there's nothing in between that's a standardized budget experience. And so that's what these guys are going to solve. I think that like as modern consumers in India evolve, we are a summation or combination of what a 21st century consumer looks like anywhere else in the world with an Indian flavor to it, right?
Correct.
And so
Inclination.
I'll like to have pan once in a while, but I ain't going to the panwala anymore.
Yeah.
Right? And so there was a company I invested in called Beetle Leaf Company.
I remember that.
Which makes the experience of ordering pan standardized, hygienic and on Swiggy.
Correct.
Right? And the company now has 65 locations across 40 cities. So what I'm trying to say is that we are global looking, we wear the same sneakers, we aspire for the same products, etc. All of that.
But at our core.
But at our core, we're still Indian. And we will always remain Indian.
Yeah.
And so no cookie cutter Western consumer
Is gonna
product
work
approach will
here.
work in our country.
Correct. Absolutely. I remember
Ola,
this-
for example,
Yeah.
when they launched in India, launched something called Book Later.
Huh.
That doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. And so Uber had to launch it as well. Because if you have a flight in the morning,
Who's
you're
gonna
I'll
wake up and do
wake
it?
up in the morning, manage the cab. So I'll
Yeah.
book the cab for 6 a.m.
Correct.
I'll leave 6 a.m.
Ut ke I'll
Cash on
get
delivery.
ready.
All of these things are
Yeah.
India nuances. 10 rupee price point, India nuance.
Yeah, absolutely. Even I remember this this company that had come on Shark Tank, and Aman, I remember, had mentioned you. Pital, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
That's also, it's so quintessential for us because we've seen those matkas with water at home. We've seen those utensils of brass and pital and all of this. And we know why, like even cast iron cooking, for example. We know that generationally it's been happening in our lives, but we got like all this non-stick and all of this, but we get happy when all
But
these
if there's a
essentials
brand
are
that
there
gives it
available.
to you
Correct.
in a format and a place that's easily accessible
That
to
is
you,
what- exactly.
with branding that looks like what you're happy to see with the
Exactly.
tradition of India, you'll buy it.
You will buy it.
Actually, I want to back, and I get biased to back any of these brands reviving this, because that's eventually what we did with Dr. Vaidya's, right? I saw
That's
Lululemon
Yeah.
and I said, hey, it's amazing that yoga is global,
Yeah,
but they did it.
Yeah, they did it.
We should
and now
do
it's
it.
American.
We should do it.
Yeah.
We should do it. And that's what we set out to do with Dr. Vaidya's. And so I think lots of these brands will create Indian versions of products that the modern Indian consumer wants, and that their grandparents and parents may have consumed in a certain format, in a new age format that appeals to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree because, like you said, at the core, we are Indian. And that is where the India story is going
And
to
that
shine.
won't change.
It's not going to change. And basically, we are that. That's why we get drawn to
Correct.
these things. Now, I remember this conversation because I saw, so Biren uncle, of course, his father, and him had this wonderful conversation on, like you had a dad entrepreneur and
Yeah,
son entrepreneur
yeah.
conversation with him, which is on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Everybody go watch it. It's amazing. In that, he said something very interesting, which I want to kind of get your take on a little bit. He said that all these ESOPs and all these valuations, etc., he's like, this is all fluff and it's not real. And he said that, yes, sure, like you have this 25-year-old CEO with like lots of ESOPs, etc. But a lot of these new age startups or new age founders, etc., are living in this bubble. So how much of this is actually a bubble and how much of it is real? How much of the startup story is fluff?
Yeah, take what my dad says with a pinch of salt, because his best ever investment in life was Dr. Vaidya's.
I love it.
And he made a lot of money on that investment. Look, I think about someone who's earning 30 lakhs a year in salary at a stable MNC type job, 23, 24 years old, and then gets enamored by this beautiful startup, right? And then leaves that job and says, okay, I'll take a salary cut of 50%, and so I'll work at 15 lakhs a year, but I have this 15, 20 lakhs of ESOP, and that could be worth 1, 2, 3 crore, and so it's amazing and stuff like that. So they cut their salary 50%, and then they work in this company. They are living in a city like Bombay, where 15 lakhs a year is making ends meet pretty much,
Correct.
right? With the expenses, etc., all of that. So they reduce their lifestyle, saying that I'm in it for the shiny, beautiful thing. And the company gets funded and raises a lot of money and all of that stuff. Things are great. It's a beautiful office, nice environment. They go out for team drinks once a month. They're loving the vibe. They're Instagramming their office. And then 3 years later, money runs out and the company shuts. So now that person for 3 years has taken a 15 lakh pay cut every year.
Correct.
15 to 3 is 45 lakhs.
Yeah.
And the ESOP is worth 0.
Yeah.
That's what he was trying to say, right? That be smart, cautious and realistic about what you're doing, because see, there's a massive difference between primary and secondary.
Correct.
What is primary? It's money going into a company. That's fungible.
Yeah.
Every investor that puts primary, including me, has something called anti-dilution or liquidation preference, right? Anti-dilution means that if I invest in a company at 100 and the next round happens at 75, my investment at 100 also gets recalibrated to
Readjusted
75.
to 75.
And if I've invested 5 rupees in a company and the company sells for 5, I get paid before the founder gets paid.
Correct.
Right? And so all of these beautiful valuations, all of these great numbers, they're great. And I'll be honest, there is now this anti-rhetoric or contra-rhetoric that startups are terrible and they are fake and it's all not
It's
real.
bound to happen.
I lived in a world where I am what I am today because of my startup.
Of course.
And so there is real value being created. I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But I think in 21 and 22, there was this summer of startup funding. And this group of people that one investor told me, you're children of the summer, right? That started believing that all of these inflated valuations would stay forever and they've gone away, right? And so I think everybody has to be realistic when they think things and not live in these amazing dreams. I have a very close friend from college who, very smart guy, went to Brown University, data scientist, super smart. And he was at WeWork in 2014, 15, 16. And I went to New York and I remember meeting him at the WeWork Galactic headquarters, right?
So fancy.
And he was like, this is the best company in the world. We're changing the world. We're not just a co-working company. We're changing schools, education, living, lifestyle. He told me they had this thing called summer camp. They'd go to London. They've had this like 1 week party. Investors, vendors, team would come. They'd have this crazy thing. And I was like, dude, you're part of a cult.
Yeah.
Let's be honest here.
like
It's not the best.
cult.
It's a great company maybe.
Yeah.
But it's not the best company in the world, right? And then eventually when it went down, I called him and I said, dude, like...
What happened?
He's like, yeah, I drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And it's easy to drink the Kool-Aid. But I think what my dad was trying to say is you have to step aside,
And
look into a mirror and see reality.
Yeah, 100%. And there's some 95, 99, I don't know what the percentage is exactly. But startups fail. We know that. We know that they're risky. We know that putting everything on the line is possibly not an option for a lot of people.
Yeah.
We were privileged. We were lucky enough to be able to
Exactly.
do
And so you're saying a very important thing. You have to weigh that option, right?
Yeah.
Like, am I okay to take this cut? And it's, by the way, totally okay to say, hey, I won't take a 50% cut. I'll take a 25% cut. Because that'll at least let me live in a reasonable way, right? So I think like times are changing. On the way here, I was reading an article that Netflix is going to stop reporting subscriber numbers in their shareholder reports because they want to report revenue.
Yeah, because that's not the only factor that determines their growth. Because now they're actually making money.
So DAU and MAU and user engagement and number of users is great, but it has to lead to business.
Yeah, that's true. And you're right. The way things are looking, the startup economy is obviously amazing. A lot of people are starting up because Shark Tank has made it very fancy to start up as well. But now there's also a trend, which, by the way, you have also fallen prey to, where founders are becoming creators and creators sometimes becoming founders. That I'm not very sure with.
Devaya put this amazing tweet, which I remember. He said, all founders want to be content creators. All content creators want to be founders. The grass is green on the other side and nobody is happy. Look, I think... I saw this video by Sarthak Ahuja the other day. He said that now 2% of the criterion for underwriting loans is social media following.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't know if it's real or not, but he said he did his research and that's what he got.
That's really funny.
Look, I think I would not say I'm a content creator yet because I'm not.
No, you are. I'm saying it.
But I'm not so like, I don't know. I'm new. I don't know enough and I'm still learning the game. But by the way, I think that like as a VC today, if your job is to engage with the next set of founders, they're not leading Live Mint anymore.
They're not.
They're not reading Economic Times anymore. And so when I put out my thesis on mass premium sneakers and I found the company I wanted to invest in, that's doing my job, right? So instead of having a PR team that does my funds PR and puts out articles, like I put a video on the company I invested. I put a LinkedIn post actually, not even a video, of this company called Dil Foods that I invested in.
Oh yeah, I read that.
And
they were also on Shark Tank.
They were also on Shark Tank. And they had a great pitch on Shark Tank.
They did. I saw.
And they got 2 million views on their pitch on YouTube on Shark Tank. But my post about them got 500,000 views.
Oh damn.
On LinkedIn. And so is it really relevant for me to talk about my investment in a newspaper or magazine? Or is this the new way for me to engage with a new set of founders? Is this a new way for me? Like, what has this given me? And I don't do this for fame. But every time I reach out to a founder, the number was 2 in 10 when I started my job as an investor. It's now 7 in 10 founders respond to me.
See.
That's my currency.
Of course.
Which I am 2 years into investing.
Correct.
Most of the people around me are 10, 15, 20 years into investing. They have much more experience. They have much more chops. They have much more track record. I have a different kind of track record. What's my moat? This is my moat.
Yeah.
No other VC has a D2C cohort. No other VC has social media presence. And no other VC has the connect to the level that I have with
built
founders.
Amazing access.
That's the reason I do it, right? And I'm not shy to say I do it. Right?
But that's amazing. But you shouldn't be shy to say it because, like you said, you're doing your job. You're
and
getting
I'll
access.
tell you, like initially when I started doing it, people were like, "Arey, this guy, he's just putting videos, keeps talking to the camera, etc."
The same thing that happened to us also.
And then it's made fun of until it's good.
Yes.
No, it's good. It's like, oh, I love your content, dude. I see it all the time. I follow it and stuff like that, right?
We started off with, these two girls are they're dancing to some songs and pointing to things that are talking about finance.
Like, I remember FinCocktail did a session for Dr. Vaidya's team on financial freedom.
Yes, we
did. A Zoom session we did in 2019 or 20.
20
or
COVID 21
maybe.
we started. Yeah, 20 we
look,
did.
I think the one thing which I think that like a message I would give to people who are trying something, whether it's starting a business or it's putting content out or it's doing something, right? Whatever you're doing, no shame in hard work.
Yeah.
Because people used to make fun of us a lot of time in Dr. Vaidya's as well, saying, "Arey, these guys keep selling their product." At the engagement party also, they had their mascot.
Yeah.
What kind of people are they, etc. All of that. And then it became good. And they're like,
then they're like,
I
where's
always
Live It
knew
Up?
you were going to do
Where's Live It
well. And what a business you have built, right? So I would say
Always.
discount all of that as long as you're doing honest hard work.
Correct.
If you're cheating, if you're lying, if you're stealing,
Then
if you're doing
stop
something
it.
unethical, doubt yourself,
Yeah.
please. But if you're doing honest hard work, it's okay.
Yeah. And I agree. Like, you always get like laughed at until those same people come and say that, I knew it. I knew you were meant for good and big things.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned moat already, which is a favorite word of a lot of us. Now, a lot of our listeners don't know how to exactly define moat.
Yeah, sure.
How would you define it, and how should somebody define it for themselves?
Look, I think I'll give the backstory of what moat means, right? Moat is a water body around a castle or fort in the ancient times. That was an additional layer of defense or the sort of last layer of defense, right? If you think about business as well, as investors, we always talk about this thing called defensibility. Is the product completely commoditized or replicable, or is there some defensibility? If I think about Dr. Vaidya's, I say my family is 150 years of legacy and 100 plus proprietary formulations. That was my moat. And so everything that you do eventually should be defensible such that it cannot be copied by 100 people tomorrow. In the country we live in, if something is good, there'll be 100 people entering that market.
Course.
Right? And so all your favorite products, right? They could have form factor as a moat, like we launched Chyawanprash toffees. It could be price. That's how Jio's market entry happened. That was their moat. It could be ingredients or quality of product. Mamaearth initially was made safe, toxin free. First brand in India to do that.
Yeah.
It could be marketing strategy and brand. Whole Truth is a company that's truly built on a marketing moat, right? That marketing strategy allows loyalty for consumers. So it could be varied things. It could be convenience. There's a reason I pay 10x what I would pay for a normal pair of earbuds for my AirPods.
Yeah.
And that's convenience and seamlessness, right? And so I feel really bad when I leave it on a flight and I lose it. But that convenience of taking it out of the case and just putting it in my ears and it connects to my phone. That's why I pay 10x and that's their mode. So you got to think about what your defensibility is, and it doesn't have to be one thing. It could be a different thing. It could be 2-3 things put together. But that's what moat means.
Nice. Now, now this is one of those generic questions which I kind of have to ask. What do you look for when you invest in a startup, or if you invest in a founder, let's say?
Like the first thing I would say is, like, do we even know the space? We actively go and build thesis saying, hey, we want an energy drink between the 40 to 60 rupee price point because Sting is at 20 and Red Bull's at 125, and a customer can't graduate from Sting to something else.
Correct.
You can't go from Sting to Red Bull at 6x the price point. So there's a gap. So do we have a thesis or do we know the space? Once we find that we want to invest in a space, it's 50% founder, who is that person, why do they have a right to, and why will they fight through tough times? 20% market, which is less talked about, but is there an addressable market large enough that the business can grow 5 times from my investment, right?
Correct.
Or is it some gluten-free, sugar-free snack which only
chota.
Arjun Vaidya and 100,000 people in India
are gonna
eat
have
in their dietary preference? And then 30% is the standard stuff, right? It's business economics and teams.
Yeah.
So revenue, gross margin, EBITDA, lifetime value, repeat rate, all of those kind of things as well. But I would say market size and founder would be 70% of the decision because we invest in an early stage. Correct. As you go later in your stage, the third category, which is business economics and team, will be 50, 60, 70%.
They start mattering
but in the
more
early
later
stage, I'm investing in a person who's driving something.
Yeah, because it's you don't know, na.
When my dad invested in us, we were a new age Ayurvedic business that sold offline.
Correct.
By the time we sold, we were the largest company that sold Ayurveda online.
Yeah.
He invested in people that figured it out and eventually gave the outcome to him. But exactly what we said on day one is not what we ended up doing.
Yeah, that's true. And you as a founder have to be able to, the only thing that that you know as a founder, something's going to go wrong. Shit's going to hit the fan. You just know it.
Every day. And after a while, we started getting immune to it.
You're like, theek hai,
First,
okay.
I would flip out. Like, I remember
na?
once our factory stamped the wrong MRP on products.
No.
And 1,000 bottles came with the wrong MRP. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. It's the end of the world. What happened? Called my dad. I was like, how do I manage this factory? It's insane. He's like, okay, stop. What do you got to do? Send those 1,000 bottles back and change, like get them relabeled or change the stamp. Yeah. That's all. Right? Go do that. That's it, right?
Yeah, that's
it's
it.
One day of wasted time.
Yeah.
Why are you flipping out about it? Move on, man.
Yeah, that's a great kind of...
Entrepreneurs learn
this eventually.
What's the worst that can happen? That's what you ask yourself.
It's like challenging yourself.
What's the worst that can happen?
What's the worst that can happen? Shut down. Next.
No, not shut down. I didn't get there at least.
You didn't get there. I mean, that's what, right? So unless and until you don't reach that stage where you're not shutting down, there's a solution for every problem.
And one thing which my dad said in different words, but I heard a squash coach say it very recently. He said, run to the roar. Run to the roar. He gave a lovely analogy of lions hunting, right? So he said, actually, lionesses hunt, not lions.
Yeah, lionesses.
And the lionesses always take the oldest lioness with them when they go for hunting. This lioness is probably blind, very old, low on energy, but has the loudest roar. So when they go to hunt, they put her in the center of the plain, let's say, the savannah. It usually has a water body and a bush as well. So this lioness will be at the center. The prey will be all around. She will roar. The prey will instinctively run away from the roar and to the bush where the other lionesses are waiting to kill them.
Oh, damn.
So he says, this squash coach said, your instinct will let you run away from the problem.
Yeah.
But running away from the problem is worse than running to the problem.
So you run
because you run to her and she's not going to kill you.
Yeah. Oh, damn. That's amazing. I'm going to use that. It's a great story. So on that note of lionesses roaring, so what we're trying to do at FinCocktail, you obviously know, we're trying to advance financial literacy. Do you think there's a connection between financial literacy and founders? Because I'm not sure, you have met way more than I have. Do you think founders manage their money well? Do you think they're more on just focusing on the business and not really personally?
Yeah. I mean, I was completely like that. I started only managing my money when I sold Dr. Vaidya's.
Yeah.
I think that they don't have the bandwidth or the time to be able to do it. And so someone needs to help them to be able to do it, right? Because it's important.
It is.
I think you can't sacrifice everything around for that one thing. And if you do, you start feeling it after some period of time. So I think the way to do it is to accept that you don't have the time to do it and give it to someone else.
Give it to someone. See, and a lot of people say that, you should manage your own money. We also say that, yes, of course. But according to me, what we say is that you should know what is happening with your money. Give it to somebody else. You don't have the time, you don't have the bandwidth. That's perfectly fine.
But you should know what's happening. So you don't get taken for a ride.
Understand what is happening, because otherwise people are waiting.
It's like everything else, right? Exactly. I don't know performance marketing. I gave it to an agency. They didn't know what they were doing. Once a month I spoke to them and everything went badly. That's not an excuse that you don't know how to do it. Correct.
Learn. Correct. Understanding how it basically works is easy to do. You don't need to know the technicals. You don't need to know it exactly. You don't need to do it yourself either. You just need to know how it works. Correct. That's it. So, okay. So now you manage your money, na? How do you manage your money? Tell us.
I don't manage my money.
He's like, yeah,
I
give it
take
to
a more
somebody.
active role in managing my money, but we have a wealth manager who
That's perfect.
meets us once a month. We make a plan on how to manage the money, and then they are responsible. And if they do well, they make a share of the profit, and that's how it is, right?
But
So
that's perfect.
we know what our debt to equity allocation ratio
Correct.
is. For each member of the family, it's different depending on the amount of risk you want to take. We know what our goals are, each of us financially, and we know how much risk level we are willing to take, right? From the most sort of safe fixed deposits, government bonds, all the way to angel investments and startup investments, and everything in between is what our family office has access to now. But we found someone who we trust, and we meet them once a month. So we don't passively, but we don't actively manage our money. It's somewhere in between where we know what's happening. We take calls. We're asked for those calls. We're given
so
options.
you understand where it is.
And we're given
your hands
options of which we take calls.
Got it.
But then the day-to-day we don't run.
That's great. That's amazing.
Look, I think if you're not great at something,
you
or
should
you're not the
give
best
it
at
to
something, give it
somebody.
to the person who's the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people ask me like, what do you think of this stock? I said, I have no idea. I don't know.
It's like, you ask me about a company, I will tell
Yeah,
you.
but I don't know. And it's okay to say I don't know.
Yeah, I
I'm
agree.
not the expert at it. Okay, what you're saying makes sense. I'll speak to them and then
I'll
if they
figure
like
it out.
I'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. But I know that the first thing that you did, and I don't know if it was the first, but one of the biggest things that you did with all your money that you got from the Dr. Vaidya's exit was that you bought a house. Now there is obviously a debate about like this whole buying versus,
Rent versus
renting thing going on. Why did you buy a house? And do you agree that this should be a debate? According to me, it shouldn't even be a debate.
So, we've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
I was always on the rent side.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was always on the rent
Yeah.
side. Then we had this capital that came in and we had to offset capital gains. And
Yeah.
so I said it'll be nice to have a house. And so I
Best.
bought a house, right? And that's why we did it. But I was still on the rent side.
Yeah.
Until I had a kid.
Yeah.
Once I had a kid, then I was like, okay, I'm not saying buy a lot of houses, right? Because Bombay is very expensive. And real estate is a good asset class if you do it right. But
Correct.
South Bombay is not the place to do it right.
No. That's
because-
not for investing.
Yeah, because there are emotional reasons that go into buying it, where I want to be, close to
Correct.
my parents,
Correct.
close to family, etc. All that. So you may not do it dispassionately or unemotionally as an investment. But I think the security of owning this place, that if everything else around me goes not so good,
At least
this is there and my
Yeah.
kid and my family has a home.
Yeah.
And then sort of the emotional aspect of being close to my parents, my grandma,
Yeah.
my aunt, my
Of
cousins, all of that, all in the same complex.
Yeah.
That really
That
helps.
makes a
And,
difference.
and sometimes I think that like this decision cannot be looked at completely dispassionately
It can't.
and unemotionally, like other investments can be looked at.
Yeah.
And so now I'm on the buy side.
So yeah, nice. So you're on the buy side.
I'm on the buy side.
Interesting. We've switched you. Welcome to the dark side.
One house.
One house. One house is okay. Baki, then you figure out if you want to invest
What do you want to
in
do
real
with the
estate,
rest?
then you figure out. Maybe
But-
buy land somewhere.
But my dad was
Obscure.
always on the buy side. And then he's always a very traditional investor. So he put all his money in gold. And then yesterday he sent me this graph.
Of
Sensex
and
2010 gold, 2010 price now. Because I want to say 3 times in the last 2 years I've told him sell. All the gold we have, we should sell right now.
No.
Now I asked him yesterday, are we selling? He said no. 100,000 I will sell gold.
Oh God. Even then he's not going to
And he
sell it
gave me
because
this justification of war and all of
Yeah,
that
yeah,
and
yeah.
something.
no, and he's not going to sell it then also because then he'll be like, see, it's grown so much, it'll grow more.
No, I took a promise from him, 100,000.
Oh
he'll sell.
wow.
So gold at 100,000.
100,000 is going to be
Saying it
sold.
on this podcast, we'll make my dad sell the gold.
Oh, sorry, brain uncle. This is where it was recorded. Nice. So, I want to leave you with one question. Where do you see the future of D2C moving forward in the next 5-10 years? Because see, you've already talked about how the space has changed so drastically, right? Now you have to be technical. Now what you used to get a year to do, now you have just 2 months. You have to stand out. You have to find a moat. You have to make sure that, you stand up to competition. So now, where do you see this going in the next 5 to 10 years? What are you looking at?
Look, I'll say 2 things, right? The big brands, the ones that are doing 100, 200, 300 crores, they'll have to all start figuring out their offline strategy to be omni-channel because D2C will have a ceiling at some point. It could be 100, 200, 300 crore, whatever that number is. And now that you're doing 100, 200, 300 crore, you are a big brand.
Yeah.
And customers are asking for you at stores, right?
Correct.
So they will have to start figuring out an offline strategy, which will mean a very different way of doing business for them. It's very different to run a offline distribution business as is for an online business. And so they'll have to get that skill set, understand skill set and operate that. For smaller brands today, the good news is that niches can be large businesses. My favorite example is always M Caffeine.
Yeah.
When I met Tarun the first time, I said, dude, you're launching caffeine-based cosmetics. How can this be big? But given the market has become more nuanced, there are niche personal care products, niche Ayurvedic products, niche health supplement products, niche fashion products, all selling now. Because any small niche in India, also given the size of the market, can be a 50, 100 crore business.
I know.
And so I think the bigger brands will have to go omni-channel. And people starting today can start in smaller niches because the market has grown to an extent that those smaller niches can also become big businesses. So I think these two things I would foresee we'll see in the next decade.
Nice. And tell us one last thing. Sorry, I said last already. One last thing. What do you enjoy the most? So you've been a founder, you've been an educator, you run cohorts, you are an investor, you create content. What do you enjoy the most? What would you do every day?
Look, I like everything. I enjoy everything. I haven't done the other things as much as I've done being a founder. So right now I'll say founder.
Okay.
But ask me in 3 years.
Done. We'll do that again. We'll do this again in 3 years. Thanks so much, Javed. That's what I call him, guys.
It's been
Thank you. This was so fun.
Pleasure. And a different kind of conversation from what I'm used to having.
Henna? Yeah, because we wanted to keep it different because everybody knows your other stories. So I was looking for the real stuff behind the man.
I think it's the first time I've done a podcast with someone I've known for so long.
Henna?
Yeah.
It's very different. Because I'm like, but you already know the answer to this.
Hi guys, my name's Arjun Vaidya. I was just on Happy Hour with FinCocktail with Sayali. Like, share and subscribe their channel. If you like me or you like Sayali or you like this conversation, we'd be so happy if you can do that.
Yes. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. And we will see you in the next one.